Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tigers Radio Podcast here. I'm Rogelio Castello alongside Miss Chris Brown. At some point, he'll be here shortly. And Uper, find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Stitcher, and Google Play. Please leave us a review on either iTunes or Spotify. As on Spotify, you have a new way just to leave 5 stars without writing something. So if you're that lazy, just take you 2 seconds. And if you want to leave us a review and give us some feedback, great too. Honestly, that's fine by me. And we have an active audience on social media, so that's why I know people on the, especially in our comment section, Leland Motor City Bengals, where we got some really good comments. So take 2 seconds from your endless scrolling or watching a TikTok video you've seen already 5 times. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. Just if you have a second, that's great. And while you're doing that, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tiger Mind Report. Tonight, our guests are Brandon and Ashley McCullen from BlessYouBoys.com. And as we're on the eve of the start of spring training for the Tigers as they take on the Phillies tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. The game will be streamed on Bally Sports Detroit and also be on the radio at 97.1, and I believe it will be on 97.1. Folks, how you guys doing?
Baseball.
Yeah,
I'm good. Part of me never thought this day would come. I was getting a little nervy, and now I'm excited because we get to watch some real Tigers baseball tomorrow.
I'm sure it was the same for you guys, but you knew that at some point this would get worked out and everything would go 0 to 60 in 2 weeks. But I didn't expect it to be happening when it did, because I figured once we got to where we were, I thought we might be looking at late May or something. So I'm just very happy baseball's back. Thank God.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I thought that based off the public relations out there between the MLB and the Players Association, it seemed like there's just no resolve to it. But a lot to get to this evening. A busy week for the Tigers. And we have the Al Avila press conference, which will kick off here. And I'm going to give you guys some quotes. And I want your own interpretation of Adventures in PR, as Brandon came up with a clever title right before we started the show, because there's a lot of interesting quotes he said today. The Tigers also signed what we mentioned earlier, but they signed Andrew Chafin. But look, so we'll get into the minor league signings, which were curious to me a little bit. Brandon and Ashley, I'll ask for take about that. And we got some questions, actually quite a bit of questions. And one of my favorite questions, the guys who ask questions all the time, his name is Charlie Pickering on Twitter, and he does this thing with lettering. So let's just say he used a lot of J's, and I'll get that.
Oh, it's alliteration. Yeah,
his alliteration. Yes,
yeah.
And I think sometimes he knows. That's why I've been trying to slow down more, because he knows. I think he can understand how I word questions. So. But yeah, so Avila spoke at the press today, and some of the quotes are very interesting. But we're going to start something that I've done this before, but unprofessionally. But now I'm going to add some production value to this.
It's time for everybody's favorite game show. What did Al Avila say?
All right, folks. So I'm going to get some quotes, and I want everybody's interpretation of the quotes. Adventures in PR. Here we go. This is the first quote. Al Avila on trading prospects. Quote, "It's taken a lot of work to build up the farm system, so we're going to be very careful. Now, if there is a trade there to be made that makes a lot of sense for us, we're not afraid to trade a prospect to. We want to be careful." Uper, what the hell does that mean to you?
Just typical GM word vomit. Really, I think what I would say to him, just when I saw the word "careful," I got really depressed. And I know it's an overused, maybe even a trite saying, but fortune favors the bold. And that's the last thing Al Avila sometimes seems. Right. So that was quite a statement.
Ashley.
I think that's just the kind of subtle GM speak for, hey, Eric Neander, if you've got somebody available that I really want, I might be willing to make another Willy Adames type deal. But I don't think that the Tigers are kind of on the look for anybody that would be a trade target right now, really. I think they've built what they need to, and I think with a couple more free agents, maybe they can bolster a lineup that'll serve them well in 2022. So I think what he's really saying is we're not actively shopping, but if somebody calls us with an offer we can't refuse, the phone's open.
Yeah. Right. Of course, he also said that they are actively shopping. So I guess you can take that any which way. But that's
I think, I mean, actively shopping in terms of like trades. I don't know.
I mean,
feel
he did say that, I mean, I don't know if they are or not, but he did come out after that and say like, yeah, we are still interested in pursuing, we've been involved in some trade talks and all that too. So, I mean, I guess it's just downplaying expectations really, more than anything. I mean, I tend to agree with him, on the first point. Like, it's taken them longer than it probably should have to get the farm system into decent shape and start producing a pretty good amount of talent. So, I don't necessarily want to turn right around and make some gigantic blockbuster that will decimate the top 4 or 5 of the farm system either. But yeah, it's just that thing where he'll start to say something and it sounds definitive, but then he doesn't like that, and so then he kind of backtracks and says the reverse because he doesn't want to commit himself to anything. It's just sort of a standard Al Avila trope. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Bob Nightingale tropes over the past 2 weeks, and Al has some too, where AJ Hinch would say something definitive and then he would elaborate, whereas Al will start to say something deliberate and then completely backtrack and say something else almost entirely. But in the end, yeah, it's GM speak. Anything could happen tomorrow or nothing could happen. So I'm not going to make too much out of it, but sometimes he really does seem to shoot himself in the foot with the fan base, especially.
Yeah, especially with this question or this quote here coming up. And when he said the payroll has not been an issue, he said, quote, no restrictions, which I kind of give a little eyebrow raise to. But I mean, at the same time, he is right. The Tigers have spent a lot of money this offseason. However, there was a lot of dead cap that came off the books. So that's where kind of like, But here's the other quote that I wanted to ask you guys about.
Yeah. No limit. I love that idea. Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No limit. Yeah, not like the record label, but that's a obscure reference for anybody out there. But so when it came to the question about what do Torque and Green have to do to win a job this spring, quote, that's a good question, and it's a question we've been asking ourselves. I can't exactly tell you what we're looking for, but we'll know it when we see it. How's that?
Yep. Clear as day, baby.
Well, there's more to, because he talked a little bit more about that too, where he was, I think, specifically asked whether or not he'd be gaming their playtime, right? And he's like, no, there's no need. If they're good enough, they'll just go up. And I'm like, dude, that's just your way of saying the new CBA deal kicked you in the butt with that one. And you can't game their playtime, but okay. So I think him saying something along those lines is really, can we play them in the minors longer than maybe we should because they're not ready for the majors, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, if they get out there and they hit this well, or they do this well, or they show us this. I think it's being cagey because it's like, oh, well, we'll know it when we see it. I'm like, you knew it when you drafted them. Like, what they can do. Yeah. The only place for them to go at this point is up and prove themselves at that level. And if they can't, then you say to yourself, okay, maybe they need a little bit more time to simmer. But like, I don't know. He's hedging his bets a little bit there, and I think it's unnecessary. Because
I think it's a perfect point, though. That I mean, they could start them, and if it doesn't work, well, fine. Then no one can argue with you, and you send them down for 6 weeks, and you've got the year of service time collected. And if they didn't look like they were going to win Rookie of the Year or finish top 3 or 5 and get you a comp pick or whatever, everyone would understand that, but. Yeah, it's just a little odd to start out with. I don't really know, or I'm not really sure what we're looking for exactly. I can't tell you exactly. Just tell us, if AJ Hinch tells me they're ready, I'm gonna then I'll agree with AJ Hinch, because that's probably what we should do in most cases, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the quote following up with that was, "There's not been any restrictions by any means. I, as general manager, am trying to be responsible in what we pay, the years, and all that stuff." This is him saying that, not me. That's my job. It's how we manage. I haven't had any issues with payroll of anything of that nature. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I can hold a guy back and we're going to get by and we're going to make the playoffs anyway. You got to go full bore from day one, because those few games at the beginning can mean everything at the end, end quote. And he's absolutely right about that. And so
he is, if I believed that was any GM's mentality on young super talent. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
like
some,
holding them back seems to be the general like rule of thumb for most clubs, because you want to like keep them as long as you can, but it proves to be stupid for most clubs. Like look at Chris Bryant with the Cubs. Look at those situations where the year you're fighting over having them, they're generally injured or losing steam or mad at you because of arbitration. Like use them when they're at their peak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
One of the things he didn't say that I thought was interesting is he didn't really talk about the fact that they just got to AAA, because that would be like the standard thing a GM would use is that, they'd only played, whatever it was, 38, 40 games there last year. We might want to see them, kind of get on a roll this year before they make the jump. He didn't equivocate with all that kind of stuff. He just sort of very vaguely equivocated. So I don't know. I would hope they would call them both up if they're looking good for sure. I expect that they both will be looking good. And yeah, I mean, I hope they go ahead and do that. But yeah, we've seen this story from so many organizations. We're not even the Dodgers do this kind of thing sometime. But we're not the Dodgers and the Yankees where if they're good this year, we'll probably ink them to a 8-year extension right off the bat anyway. It'll probably take time. So yeah, I didn't come away from that feeling real clear or real certain about what their process of decision making on that was going to be. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just kind of figure, it's pretty much AJ Hinch's call, and I bet that's kind of how they'll play it. If AJ's really convicted that they want to go, just like Jim Leland with JV back in 2006 was like, screw you guys, this is the best arm we got, I want him. Dombrowski and the elder, Illich were like totally on board with that. So hopefully they'll take that approach. But yeah, I'm not convinced.
And
so let's say to Riley and Spencer, just go to the Grapefruit League and just mash for a couple weeks, please.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I think you would enjoy that, right?
Well, I think the biggest thing is if they earn it, they should be there, because it looks like there's new rules in place. If you think back a year ago and we were in the same situation with these guys, I know where I stood on that. I was 100% with service time manipulation and gain the extra year. It wouldn't even be an argument to have them miss 7 or 8 games in the first couple of weeks and be done with it and bring them up. But now with draft compensation possible, that's a nice little carrot out there, no question about it. And if they're good enough, they should probably play. And there's no question as well, when you look at something like the Braves did with Ronald Acuna, if Riley Green is looking like he's good enough, hopefully they will be putting that kind of offer in front of him at some point, and hopefully he doesn't say no like apparently Juan Soto has been saying no.
Yeah.
As far as, and I'm going to circle back to the trade thing for a second, because we did see the rumor yesterday per John Heyman and the Tigers are chasing either Oakland starter, Frankie Montez or Sean Manaea. Did I say that right?
Manaea. Yep.
Yeah, okay. I did say it right. Okay.
So.
And so that got Tiger Twitter all fired up and, yada, yada, yada. And then it was kind of like, then when you see the quotes earlier, it's either there's something in the works or not. But then I see some of the signings in which you see Willie Peralta gets re-signed. They re-signed Ricardo Pinto, who spent last year in AA and AAA, which I don't think I want to see him in the majors. And then a veteran like Chase Anderson, which was kind of like, okay. And some of the other arms like Miguel Diaz, it's all relief in certain cases. But, Brandon, I'll start with you in terms of the trade possibilities for the Twins. Look, Chris has been since the day I met him. You trade your chips for what you have. And I understand the farm system is not top heavy. It's top heavy. Excuse me. It is top heavy. And you have to, in terms of even for guys like there's Bo Brisky, there's Garrett Hill, you got to take your eyes away from the whole PR, the beat writer saying best shape of your life observations and look at the picture completely objectively. And this is a system that once Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson graduate, you have Ryan Kreidler, who he could be a good everyday regular, and everybody talks about how he's already going to be a good gap hitter in America, which kind of confuses me because a lot of the same people have not seen him play, but I digress. But Brandon, in terms of the trade capital, I think if they trade a couple pieces away, I think they'll still be fine based off of what we've seen last year in the minors.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just every trade, is always just a matter of the cost, and if we don't have to give up, Matt Manning or Dylan Dingler, two players that I expect to, to contribute to some degree in the next year or two. Manning obviously is already there. I mean, I could see it. But when I think of, okay, it's best to turn your prospect chips into major league talent, which I know is something Chris, has brought up. And I mean, I'll bring it up sometimes as well. That's fine. It's just that, Dave Dombrowski didn't necessarily go out and get the biggest arm on the market very often. What he did was find Max Scherzer and find Doug Fister, and, Anibal Sanchez was more established, but he wasn't the premium ace arm, that was available. And when you have Chris Fetter as your pitching coach and you have that kind of faith in those guys' ability to develop some people, I'd be all for making a trade for a starting pitcher that was pretty solid, that, Chris Fetter and AJ Hinch and Juan Nieves thought, okay, we can tune that guy up a little bit. We've got better catching than we've had, for most of the last 10 years. We've got Javi Baez at shortstop. We've got the guys who can play decent center field now. It's not going to be a defensive juggernaut, obviously, but, the defense is upgraded. I'd like to find something where you didn't have to give up, like Christian Santana. Like, I don't want to give up, like, the good-looking teenager, out there. I don't really want to give up Jackson Jobe right away, even if he is like 5 years, away from the majors. We're going to need to make trades as we go along. And I don't think they're in that bad a shape. And I don't want to try to win this thing on paper in March. I want to be ready to adjust to injuries and anything that might happen along the way. And they can make trades as they go, and figure some things out. What I really wanted them to do was just boost the bullpen. And they did that by picking up Chafin. I like the Jacob Barnes minor league signing. They've got a few guys that might be able to help out. And so, I don't think we're in that bad of shape. We just need a solid body who can go out there and give you 2 WAR. And, maybe Willie Peralta can approximate that. I'd like to find someone a little better, though, just to be sure.
What about you, Ashley?
To me, I don't know that this is, like Brandon said, a season where you try to win it in March. I think that the Tigers are finally getting to a point where they're watchably good. And with expanded playoffs, you might see them squeak into one of those spots based exactly on the roster we have right now. And I think this is a season where instead of trading away pieces, there's still some decent guys available as starting pitchers in the free agent market. And we're seeing guys go for really short-term contracts right now. Like Zach Greinke just signed a 1-year deal with the Royals. Matt Boyd, I think they're saying, is going to go to San Francisco for a 1-year deal. Like, there are guys out there who can be decent inning eaters while you're waiting to see kind of where Matt Manning is this season, what Casey Mize looks like, how that core roster is going to shape up. And I don't know that I would be trading away any of my pieces before the season even starts. I would say, before we hit the All-Star break, we see where we're at. And that's the point where you say to yourself, okay, are we over 500? Are we in a position where this could actually be a thing? And then you find your needs. I think what they've done is smart. They've stocked like some minor league deals, like Brandon said, Wiley. Well, I want to call him Wiley every time because that's how his name is spelled. Willie Peralta. It's just in my brain. I'm like, that's Wiley.
I thought that the other day too. Yeah.
But yeah, Willie Peralta, I think, has been a proven innings eater, and he's the kind of guy that on that kind of low end deal, like what, $2.5 million if he gets to the majors.
Yeah.
That's a solid pickup. Find somebody in there. Like I was looking at the list, like Danny Duffy is still available. Drew Smiley might even be interesting. He's not great, but he's in there, and it would be kind of a nice homecoming story. There's definitely guys out there that are available that would probably at this point be very willing to take on a 1-year deal. And I think that that's where you put your eggs for right now.
Yeah.
Huper, and then Huper, go ahead.
Yeah. With the A's pitchers in particular, if the Tigers really believe they can make the playoffs this year, whether it's as the last seed or even make a mini run at the division in a perfect world, then I really am for them getting one of these pitchers. But I don't see Manning as being the guy to dangle, because the whole thing behind this is they need pitching depth to get through the season with these young arms. So I don't think you move Manning. The one I'm interested is if Oakland does like Kreidler and maybe Dingler, maybe that's what you move to get someone like Montas. who's controlled for 2 more years. Because Kreidler, I liked him when I saw him in person. Small sample, obviously, and he had a wonderful year. But let's face it, that was really his first great season, and this might be the point to sell high. This might be the sell high point on Kreidler, and it might not be. I mean, we'll have to see how that goes forward. But I kind of lean toward Montas a little bit over Manaea, due to the 2 years, and due to the fact that if you told me, just blindfolded me and said, you got 2 pitchers here, they're both pretty good, one's a righty, one's a lefty, I will naturally drift toward the righty just for the platoon advantage more often. But I do know that Manaea has pitched more full seasons than Montas, so that's one little problem there. But I would like to see them make this move, and I'm not afraid of them moving prospects outside of the top 3.
For myself, I look at it this way. I've seen Ryan Kreidler play last year and seeing some of the other talent that's in the system, like Gage Workman, and even some of the other guys who don't get a lot of the attention. I think of also Elizer Alfonso comes to his mind. Mike Rothenberg has come in with some good hype too as well. And I definitely like the fact that they went out and signed the guy like Jack Lopez. That kind of gives a little pressure off Cody Clemens as being another utility infielder. But if they make the trade, if they do make a trade, and a lot of fans don't want to spend or trade. I don't know what they want. They want, and I understand why, because they're so accustomed to seeing the teams in 84 to 68 build by the farm system. It's as simple as that. And I think that's the expectation every time. And it's almost, you have to get rid of that. I don't want to say get rid of that mindset, but you look at the 06 team, you look at the 2012 team that went to the World Series. Those were teams constructed by trade with a little bit of the farm system involved. And one guy that no one's even mentioned, and it's just want to know what happened to him. I mean, where is Rick Porcello?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Rick Porcello.
Like, he hasn't been mentioned at all. Like, I want to know. Like, is he in New York? Is he in Nantucket, or was it Pawtucket, or what am I talking? Martha's Vineyard, or wherever out on the East Coast?
He is fishing right now. I can guess that much.
Yeah, he's gonna come back with a full beard and like just have all these big fish trout. But I mean, and another guy too, I like that they picked up in. We just had him on the minor league podcast with Nick Kunza, who has some really good numbers and for San Diego, and I thought that was a pretty good Rule 5 draft pickup. But I don't know. If it makes sense, do it. I don't have a problem with them signing Michael Padilla either, or Anderson, Tyler Anderson from Seattle. I thought he'd be a good idea too. So if that's the case, that's fine. If they can. But to get a playoff berth this year with the way Toronto's like, yeah, you know what? Toronto's like, we'll just get Matt Chapman. We'll just get everybody. That's cool. And we're just going to build this monster juggernaut offense. And the same Boston, New York's like, oh, yeah, we'll do something similar too. And it's crazy what Toronto's had one of the best off seasons I've seen in a long time. And the Giants are going to do what the Giants are going to do. We'll talk about those teams a little later.
Yeah, the Padres had a couple really good off seasons.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
and that's kind of who I've been name checking as far as like not going too crazy. I think Uper's totally right. I mean, if you can get Montas and not give up like someone who's sort of crucial right now or in the next year, then yeah, I'll be totally fine if they do that. I just don't feel like we're in quite the place to like go nuts trade wise, and selling the farm just yet. But yeah, I mean, if you can get the player and not have to give up, someone crucial, that's okay too. The other factor I'd say too is that, all those teams, Dabrowski built, we didn't have that much of a farm system. We didn't have a track record of development. I kind of want to see what the, radically revamped Tigers player development system can do with some of these guys. You might be selling low on some people you don't think you are right now. You have to factor all those sorts of things into it. So if there's a deal to be made, I'm not going to complain about the Tigers trying to go for it after what we've endured over the past 7 years. But I just want them to be judicious, if I can use that word. That's all.
That's a good, that's a good word to use. And I think that's perfectly acceptable. If the Tigers are competing, that's all I care about. Like last year was such a fun watch because they were a team that we could watch and not go and not swear afterwards or complain about on Twitter for 20 minutes after a game.
At least after the first month and a half of the season.
yeah,
that
yeah.
was
That was
unwatchable.
That was brutal. That was very brutal. You're absolutely right. But it was
like covering the Tigers, like we had to like drag everybody back in June. Like, look, they don't suck. It's okay. You can come back.
I just remember
April was rough.
I was talking to Kurt about this. I was looking at our page views from after, before when the Tigers were just terrible to afterwards, and it was the same thing with the podcast. All of a sudden, everything just went spiked up, and I'm glad. And even like just using this technology that we've seen the minor leaguers use beforehand, where they're showing the wall, and I know everybody's like, "What's the big deal?" When it comes to Tigers technology, what have you. This is the same team that won Spark Anderson when they found out that a lot of guys were weightlifting in the late 70s, early 80s. He was like far against it, even though everybody else was doing it.
Yeah,
Sparky's like, no, I don't like people weightlifting at all.
Yeah,
so
him and my little league coaches didn't like it either.
Yeah,
and I didn't know until much later that it was all Sparky Anderson's fault, and that's why I turned out to be a skinny little twig, couldn't hit.
Oh, you need to be fast and what have you. And then it's the same organization that had like one or two Latin scouts until the early 90s. Saying they didn't even have enough to have a full farm system until it was mandatory to have them in late 89, 90 when they started getting another farm team. So we're talking a lot of this goes back further than just in the last 10 years or so. And to see the progress, I'm excited for it. And I'm also excited to talk about Andrew Chafin, who is the Tigers signed him today. He had a good old mug of root beer, and he there was a picture of Avila smiling with wearing his all tiger green behind him that cracked me up.
The green outfit was something else.
Yeah.
So
he was a little bit in Cuban leprechaun mode.
Oh man, que lástima, I would say, or my dad would say.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, but Ashley, how pumped are you for Andrew Chafin time?
I don't know. I'm always very cautious about getting amped about anything bullpen related. So I'm holding cautious but leaning optimistic. Because he seems like a lot of fun, and I mean fun like Phil Koch, but I'm hoping not reliever like Phil Koch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want the enjoyment of him, and I think so far it's been very amusing because he's all like, "Oh, I just let my agent handle everything." He seems like a good fun dude, but like the numbers are there. I'm like I said, holding cautious, leaning optimistic. I think it could be a really good year. I mean, the Tigers bullpen's always is the reason I have chronic heartburn, but this could be a good year.
We needed kind of a hippie-ish lefty with Daniel Norris now gone to the Cubs. So a dude with longish crazy hair and a bandana showing up in his Crocs with root beer, slinging jokes.
Did Norris
talking about his farm in Ohio?
Cubs?
Yeah.
Signed the Cubs today.
That is almost so perfect. That's where he got his first major league home run.
Yeah, I was joking that. Did they know that the DH is no longer?
That's cute.
The Tigers were one of those sweet throwbacks too. The ones, the Navy Tiger road ones.
Oh, those were good unis. Yeah, I did like those.
Yeah. I don't know why they never brought those back. Those are sweet.
Chapin is kind of a sorry, just to keep going.
Oh, no, go ahead. Kind
of is. I mean, he's kind of a funky pitcher. He throws a ton of sinkers. I think like 75% last year to something like 25% sliders. The slider was death. Like he had a whiff rate over 50% on that thing. He just he keeps the ball around the park. He can kind of get you to hit it where you want and where he wants you to hit it, and that plays really well to the Tigers getting better at shifting. To Federer and hopefully Barnhart's game planning as well. I mean, he's a really good fit for them, and it kind of frees up Tyler Alexander to spot start or do kind of whatever else they need it to do. So yeah, I mean, overall, I'm pretty happy. I wouldn't have minded getting one more, like a good right-handed reliever as well. But just getting one guy is plenty for now. Because the bullpen was pretty solid last year after the rough start. And hopefully, it'll just come down to injury as usual. Hopefully they can stay healthy because I want to see Fulmer throw that 95 mile per hour slider at people for a solid year and just absolutely dominate. Overall, I think picking up Chafin was a good idea and he should be fun as well. Get two for the price of one.
And not to mention too, what I like about Chafin is in terms of his slider control, you still have with Soto and him, it's two kind of different looking lefty relievers. I mean, Soto has that starter mentality because once was a starter, he could throw 4 different pitches. He's bringing it was announced today via Evan Pitzel of the Free Press that he is bringing back his changeup, but with a different grip, and that helps. And I think one of the things, and this is a credit, Chris and I were talking about this, is that in terms of Chafin's slider, it's a lot. It has the same kind of darting action, but it seems like it's more, I guess, controlled, and he can throw it at will versus Soto. Soto's slider is good, but I think sometimes he struggled with command on that. So that, and also considering what's going to happen with Tyler Alexander, whether he's going to be a swingman or the 5th starter, he's a cut fastball, and he's also something he can throw 4 different kind of pitches at you, and it gives the Tigers a different element, especially. I mean, how often I can't remember the last time the Tigers had 3 potential lefties in the bullpen.
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, it's maybe during
that
the
were
Clay
good too. On top of that,
yeah. I was just gonna say maybe during the Clay Rapata days. I don't know, but there's one thing about Andrew Chafin that I like too is that he doesn't, in terms of far as a guy who can go in and he can play any role. It doesn't have to be the 7th inning guy or the
right.
And that's something that I'm glad that. When AJ Hinch was talking about whether it's the 6th or 7th, whatever, Soto's gonna be the closer, granted, but if they need him to do something else, Chafin can fit multiple roles. He's kind of I hate saying utilitarian Swiss Army knife because I think that cliche is used so much. So either way, I mean, the best part about this too is you look at his in terms of his K rate too, nice 24%. Can't go wrong with it, and so
I like the fact that he's been
89% chase rate.
Oof,
yeah.
I like the fact that he's been healthy. He has a nice high ceiling based on what he did last year. Really a dominant season, but really his floor is pretty high. If you look back at his career, he has a lot of 350 ERAs, 370 ERAs, and that's not great, but it's also not terrible. So if that's the floor, that's a guy who can still help. And on the ceiling, if he can repeat last year, then they have a heck of a reliever there.
Yeah, and then really for the Tigers and overall, I think it's just a good way. If this is the last thing they do, then I'm fine with it. I mean, I would like them to get another starter, honestly, but I'm not going to also spend every day on Twitter refreshing for I got to move on. It's just
I mean, we're in pretty good shape. I mean, it sounds like they're still looking for a starter. Maybe they pick up Archer or some of the other guys that you mentioned earlier, or they try Julio Teheran again and see if the shoulder will stay attached this time. On a minor league deal. He continues to intrigue me. If he could actually stay healthy and throw 91 to 93, I'd like to see that, but pretty hard to trust at this point. But yeah, as you say, like this would be a good time to spend money, but there just isn't really that much pitching left to spend money on.
Yeah, which is why, I mean, there's a lot of that case where people were saying, why make a trade? Well, I mean, if you look at the market, really, it's not good. The trade, what's left is out there is kind of leftovers. And so, actually, I did want to ask you about your thoughts about the Rays offseason as they head into a division that is continuing. The AL East is just, it's a gauntlet every year, no matter what. And the Rays always find a way to get it done. And they lost, of course, Nelson Cruz, Colin McHugh, and what have you. But in terms of, go ahead.
I don't think the loss of Nelson Cruz is really going to hurt the Rays too much. I don't think he produced for them the way that they were hoping last season when they picked him up. And I think that's okay. They obviously still managed. Like they still made it to the postseason just fine. Didn't get as far as any of us would like, but that's how it goes. I was really bummed to lose McHugh, especially on a 1-year deal. I would have liked him to come back. I thought he did a really good job last year, and I thought that would have been a really smart pickup. They've been doing some interesting things, like with pitching. They got Kluber on the 1-year deal, which I think everybody's already forgotten because it happened before the lockout. And I know he's been kind of touch and go in general, but if he has a good comeback season, that's a really big get for them. The thing that I like about the Rays is that they find weirdo pitchers that do one or two things really, really well. and they find these guys who can get whiffs on just wackadoodle little off-speed pitches. And they've been doing a lot of that this offseason, getting these like 1 to 2 year deals on guys whose names right now absolutely escape me because, frankly, my brain is still in lockout mode. But I think, I don't know. I'm excited. It's the first, like it's a good full season of Wander Franco happening, which is still very exciting. Their farm system's still really good with guys that they could be called up at any time. It's hard because the Yankees have been Yankees. And like you said, the Blue Jays have been just a juggernaut of picking stuff up. And I think of those two teams, like I'm not even going to talk Red Sox and obviously Orioles.
Yeah.
until they sign Correa, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if
10-year
they
deal.
is one Carlos Correa really going to take the Orioles to the postseason? I'm sorry.
Nope.
I'm friends with so many Orioles fans, and I feel so bad for saying that, but this is also not their year. I would love to be wrong about that. That would be hilarious. I would love to see them suddenly like dominate the AL East against all of the money Toronto has spent. But Toronto is really going to be the team to beat in that division this year. And the Rays are always really sneaky. They find guys, they develop guys, and they are consistently very good. And I think they will continue to be this year. I really wish those rumors about them going after Freddie Freeman had like yielded fruit, because that would have been a lot of fun on that infield. But that's also very spendy looking at what he got from LA. So I don't know.
The Rays aren't that spendy usually. Yeah.
No, that's like that's like 3 years of spending for the Rays.
Three full payrolls. Yeah.
So that's, I don't think is going to be realistic. I think they're going to continue to be a really fun team to watch. I would not be even the slightest bit surprised if they dealt Kevin Kiermaier before the beginning of the season. I know that's been discussed and is available. So I wouldn't be shocked. I think his time is kind of winding down there, and they have viable options in center field. And he's still really good. I think that's the thing. Like, he's still got incredible value as a center fielder because he's amazing. But I think that they're willing to kind of part ways if it means that they can pick up something that benefits them more.
Especially because, I mean, one of the things about the Rays that I find fascinating is they take a prospect you kind of forgot about. Case in point, catcher Francisco Mejia, who was a darling in the Guardian system not too long ago, and then he got traded to San Diego, and then now he's a backup catcher for the Rays. So are they going to resurrect his career? Probably. It seems like
Well, look what happened with Mike Zunino.
Yeah, that's
Who thought Mike Zunino, home run hitter extraordinaire / guy we should continue to sign to deals forever? Because where I mean, obviously the Mariners. I understand where, but like,
I see what you mean, though. Yeah,
I expected him to be veteran backup.
Yeah,
but like, look at so you're right, because look at Tommy Pham, who was basically just like dwindling, unused in the outfield in St. Louis, and goes to the Rays and just with a broken wrist has one of the best back ends of a season I've ever seen. And I was heartbroken when the Rays sent him off. Like, when he went to San Diego, I was just like, no, because that was the closest I've ever come to buying like a named Rays jersey.
Yeah.
Because as a Rays fan, you don't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I mean, you look at everybody. You always talk about this with Tiger fans. We just mentioned this earlier. You look at their starting 9, except for Lowe and Franco, they're all been trades. They're all trades.
Yeah.
And guess what, Tiger fans? Trades do pay off sometimes. Just saying.
They wheel and deal with the best of them.
Yeah.
No question. We just had Randy Arozarena. He was thought of as the second guy in that trade behind the Jose Martinez, or was that his name?
I think so.
Yeah, the guy ended up. I think the Rays got rid of him in like 2 months.
The DH. Yeah.
But I'm really excited about the Rays rotation.
G-Man Choi picked up from the Brewers. Who would have thought? And he's just like, that's the thing that's different. I think we're talking about how, the Tigers could build via trade. The difference is that the Rays are equipped to develop underutilized players and like really emphasize the skills that they're seeing that other teams aren't. And I think the danger for us when we compare that way of building teams is that for the last 10 years, the Tigers haven't been equipped to do that. They have a very rigid structure with how they develop players, and you have to slot in and you have to do things the Tigers way. Whereas Tyler Glasnow said, he's like, the Rays is a place where black sheep go because they love freaks and they love to work that way. And it creates this atmosphere of being appreciated for what other teams may have tried to change out of you. Like, we look at how Glasnow struggled with the Pirates organization. And then had he not gotten injured last season, he would have been in Cy Young contention. He would have been an all-star. And he knows that because he knows how well Kyle Snyder's worked with him and developed him and how well that organization has focused on the little freakishness that makes him good. And I think I'm hoping that with what AJ Hinch is doing and the team structure he's building and with Chris Fetter coming on board, we're seeing a shift away from the rigidity of what the Tigers way is and how it's used to develop players, as opposed to like fit your, square peg in our square hole, that will create a round hole for you and will develop a way to make things like make you the best you can be for us, as opposed to making your talent fit our mold.
And you're absolutely right about that, Ashley. And the reason why I mentioned that is because for the first time, I've watched the minor leagues we've all watched the minor leagues, and I thought last year was a significant changes in terms of just actually seeing things that were different than they were before. For example, like Spencer Torkelson started going to right field when he got to Toledo, and at first he struggled, and then you saw him, it changed his course a little bit with him. Same thing with Reese Olson. Saw him in West Michigan, and then we saw him through Erie. And somehow the Tigers found a way to make his velocity a little more consistent. And there's even the Willie Peralta is a prime example of that. He found his changeup and made it his best pitch. And you said it best, weaponize it. And as far as I'm concerned, if the Tigers end up doing this and the process works, then yes, that will probably help them down the line for trading you. But the days of poor David Littlefield and all that middling are gone. I mean, it was just good. I mean, it was I saw, and David Littlefield was a really nice guy. I met him a couple of times last year, but it was just strange because you would see him running around, going and watching games and taking notes and everything. And he was back in that scout role. And I've never seen him prior to that. I've never seen him anywhere in the field like that. And so, but there's a certain plan in place, and just hearing some of the talk you see in the scouts area about Matt Manning not throwing his slider more. Damn it. Jim Leland once quoted saying that, but it's just hearing those kind of things is refreshing. And again, it's a different whole mindset completely.
Yeah. And I mean, they went and, they did what, this is kind of like my reason for writing about the Tigers since I started was like, why don't they start copying the Rays and then the Astros or the Dodgers? They need to do that. We're never going to be the Mike Ilitch $220 million payroll team again. If we can be the 150 to 160 million payroll when we need to and develop the way those other teams do and draft the way they do, then bam, the Tigers should be able to run the Central for a good, period of time. But yeah, last year, we saw, it's not just the development either. It's drafting these good arms, like whoever the area scout is who found like Wilmer Flores and Bo Brisky, and the fact that Garrett Hill is actually like looking like he might be usable, and Brendan White has a 3,000 RPM breaking ball, and Kiter Montero has a 3,000 RPM breaking ball. You're just starting to see that that modernization of the process to where they're actually looking for those big tools and figuring out how to develop around it, rather than sort of picking those guys who were sort of like 45s at everything, didn't really have any power stuff, or maybe had one decent pitch, but didn't have the command. We just had litanies of those guys for a decade. And you're seeing, I mean, you did already start to see that transformation start to happen. We just haven't really seen it in terms of position players. But Eric De La Rosa got better last year. Ryan Kreidler obviously was the big breakout. I don't know. I mean, I wrote that gigantic epic about Doug Latta and the ball yard and all that, and JD Martinez, not because, people need to look for guys to swing exactly like, those guys do. But, it's illustrative of the lineage that's kind of grown up in terms of teaching hitting in other organizations that the Tigers have never really seemed to tap into or be aggressive about making those kind of changes with people's swings. We started to see that. De La Rosa worked with Lava, Kreidler worked with Lava. It's very hard for a team itself to, make major swing changes with someone because you can't do that during the season. So that kind of pairing of like good private instruction with, player development people who know what is being taught and why. Max Gordon coming in from Driveline to be the minor league hitting coordinator, Garco taking over as vice president of player development. There's, a whole litany of coaches with Dodgers or Driveline backgrounds now in the system for the first time this year. And yeah, I hope to see a lot better development that way. I don't know if we'll ever be the Rays, because I think if you look through guys who played for the Rays and like their Rays year is their career year, like all over the place. You see guys come there, they have a career year. Corey Dickerson, it just goes on, and then they go somewhere else and they're back to being okay again. It's really remarkable what they've done there and sustained for so long. And I think we're all terrified that Chaim Bloom's going to bring that to the Red Sox, and then everyone's just dead. Fortunately, the Yankees still suck at a lot of this stuff. That's the only saving grace of the Yankees, is they haven't figured all this out yet. But if the Red Sox do, everyone's in trouble.
I feel like the thing is with the Rays is that it's a necessity is the mother of invention thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't afford the big guys. So even if you have a guy like Chaim Bloom go to the Red Sox and suddenly have the Red Sox available income, you try to like increase what the Rays have done. But by doing so, I think you add that element of finance to it, and you end up not picking the same guys that you would pick if you had a $50 million budget as opposed to a $150 million budget. You know what I mean?
You can get lazy solving problems with money. Yeah.
I think it's a thing that doesn't grow well with a bigger budget. And as much as I hate to say, because I know that's a whole other discourse about the Rays and their budget. But I think that it's one of those things where you look for guys that are at a certain level, at a certain dollar level, that fit what you need. And I think that teams that have more money aren't going to do that necessarily. They're going to be like, okay, well, who's a Tommy Pham? But, maybe we can get a better Tommy Pham if we spend $10 million a year on him, you know? So
who's you have to introduce your guest there, your co-partner.
The one that loves Brandon. Yeah.
Hey, Dottie. Shout out to Dottie.
Oh, that's my co-host. Yeah. My very furry co-host is Dottie.
Yeah.
Named after the character in A League of Their Own.
Well, I think with the Rays too, when they get some of these guys who are on their second or third team, that's where, as you're kind of going toward, it's easier to get that buy-in from them. Because this is in some cases, this is their last shot.
Yep.
So they're going to buy into the Rays way and get it done.
Yeah.
And I think about the Rays, it's just amazing the waves of depth that they've built. When you think of Brendan McKay, who I think was the 4th overall pick in the draft, and has been hurt and hasn't done a lot. Just think if the Tigers had the 4th overall pick in the draft in these last couple of years, and that guy was stalling into nothing, or not doing much, we'd be devastated because the system is so top heavy. If one of those guys flames out, there's a problem.
You got him. You've got Brent.
The Rays don't even flinch about this.
You look at a guy like Brent Honeywell, who was supposed to be like the guy. I have another co-host joining. I'm so sorry. He was supposed to be the guy. Like, he was the hottest touted pitching prospect for that team. And he only just hit the majors last year and did okay. But I don't think he's going to be like jumping into the starting rotation anytime soon. And because he suffered quite a considerable number of injuries. And the Rays have not been set back by that at all.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to show, because if we'd lost Matt Manning and Casey Mize back to back, the Tiger system would just be like, what do?
Yeah.
So
well, I seen Ricardo Pinto started last year at some point, if that was going to be the case. And what the reason why what stands out to me before we move on to some questions is that guys like Chavez Fernander, I bring this up for example because he went to the Arizona Fall League. And he was drafted in the 35th round in 2018. When you start seeing progress, and I've never ever in my just since I'm trying to think of any time I've been paying the farm system since I was getting the free press physically as a kid. I can't remember a time where the Tigers had 20th or 30th round draft picks doing anything. I know, again, he didn't pitch above. He got the Erie last year.
Yeah.
But was he anything else beforehand? No. No one knew who he was. And that's where I see even guys like another Bryce Tyson or Tassin has some things you might like about him too. Yeah. There's also the Alex Powers pickup too. I forgot to mention him earlier. Jack Olofahin. That's another one too. That's got some potential too. And he did well at West Michigan last year when he got called up.
We like the draft too. You know, we haven't gotten to see Tanner Colehep or Dylan Smith, on the mound yet, but we like those guys. I mean, there's probably 20 plus arms that I'm actually fairly interested in or really interested in, one of the two, which I've never been able to say before, since seriously paying attention to the farm system for, 15 years, maybe, pretty much just post 2006, it's never been like this. Not even close. So, yeah.
No. And even like what Mike Mayer said in YouTube is actually very spot on. They survived that. When to be honest, when I thought those injuries, I thought it was going to kind of deter the season a little bit, and that didn't happen. But it's not just prospect fodder. No offense to AJ Labwig or anything, and what have you, but there's significant progress in those lower round draft picks, which we've never seen before. And I'm interested in seeing another guy like Carlos Pena, not the Carlos Pena, but the lefty who might start the season. I think might start the season in Lakeland or even West Michigan. I'm not sure where he's going to start at, but guys like that, I'm interested in seeing because if they can get something out of him, whether it's he's a minor league arm or he can come up and make a progress starts in a couple of years, who knows? But it's just good to see that, and I think that's what Tiger fans should be excited about. And Eric De La Rosa was one of the best stories as I recall in a long time. Sorry, if you guys remember him at West Michigan, originally he struggled over swang. And then when I saw him in Lakeland last year, I'm like, wait, that's De La Rosa just hidden in all fields. And it was a good thing.
He was just a dude who was, he was just a dude who was fast and, looked like, he was converted from another sport or something, like he really, he just was like a really raw athlete when they got him. And it's taken a long time, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of took over as the, backup outfielder in Toledo at some point, in the next year or two. He's got tools and, he's probably not going to hit enough, but, the swing changes have taken him a little ways. He looked a little, even more improved a little bit. I saw from him this spring, been a couple clips on him. But and that's a guy that, is outside our top 20 prospects. We didn't even used to bother to learn who those guys were.
And it was actually we had to actually make decisions, and it was the same thing with like just for the first time we were all as a collective going, wow, it's not just fodder, and the first time I can say that for a long time. So we did get some questions from the audience, and there's the alliteration. I'll start with that one because I hate myself and I don't mind doing this. So the first question. And this is the first question from good old Charlie Pickering. What is a jury on Jackson Job's job judged by juxtapositions of generational genius and juvenility, justified, jaded by the jarring journeys jaunted on junior jocks before?
I want Brandon to answer this, but I need him to answer with alliterative reply.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. All that just happened is I keep thinking of Zendaya's Sally sells she sells by the seashore commercial from the Super Bowl. That's all that was going through my mind. Sorry, visions of Zendaya. It's all coming back from Dune.
That's fair.
Yeah,
it's like you can go like prospect predictions, parsed partially, pausing for premonition, possible partners.
See, that's why she's the actual writer who gets paid to write books and stuff. It's tough with Jay.
Well done.
Jackson Job's job. That's all I got. I don't know. I'm excited to see Jackson Job. That's about it. It's gonna.
It would be more
take some time, but he's exciting.
It would be more fun if we could measure it with the guy who asked us about Joe Menez's chance of making it back in, because then we could go Jackson Job's job jostles Joe Menez's. I want to. I had more than 3 seconds.
Juxtaposition.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jackson
That's
Job
always a good word.
Jumps something.
Jump starts. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
It's really too bad because it is, I mean, for St. Patrick's Day and, being Irish American, I should have more game in this regard, but I don't. Might be able to pull Joyce out.
I think that's if we were getting you to write limericks. But still, that's a different situation, and those are usually very different than just alliterative turns of phrase.
Yeah, that's true.
Usually probably not very friendly for a YouTube live broadcast.
Probably not.
There once was a man from Nantucket.
There once was a Jackson Job from Mississippi. Yeah, no, I got nothing.
I'm surprised I didn't play the Pogues today. I should have played some of the Pogues today, but
oh yeah.
So in terms of where he's going to start the season, I still think he might start in Lakeland. If we're gonna answer that question is not cool is the way he phrased it. That's my answer to it.
Yeah, they're going to want to work with him. They're going to want the player development staff to work with him for at least a few more months before they'd send him to West Michigan all on his own, out into the cold, cruel world. So, yeah, I assume he'll be at Lakeland.
All right.
If he's healthy, what do you think for him this year? 110 innings?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. Yep. They did. It was interesting that they didn't let anyone throw after the draft. And I don't know. That'll be interesting to kind of see how the usage plays out this year as a result of that. Seems like it was probably the smart thing to do rather than warming everybody back up, especially with the draft being later now in mid-July. It does make good sense, but I was still a little surprised like they didn't send any of those guys to to the AFL or I don't even know if many of them went to instructional camp. Maybe somebody did. I missed it, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, you'd figure 110 innings for Job.
Yeah, I don't think anybody went to instructional camp. Do you? I don't think that. Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Wilmer Flores was the one who was real notable there, and he's obviously, already been in the system. So,
yeah. The next question comes from Brett Yoder on Twitter. Are we sure Manning is a lock for rotation, even if he has an inconsistent spring, especially if they sign one more starter? Well, I'm going to talk to the captain of the Matt Manning Express train here first and let him go first on that one.
I think it would have to be. It'd have to be pretty bad. It would be a bad sign if he didn't make the team out of camp. That's for sure. That would put a damper on everybody's spirits in that regard. I guess I won't say he has an absolute lock on it, but my whole thing with Matt is that I know the COVID took a lot out of him. He lost 15 pounds last year in the offseason before he got to camp. Took him a while to build up. You saw his velocity increasing later in the year. Did a lot of things really well, like learning a slider from Chris Fetter in, a month or less, when no one in the Tiger system could teach him one for some reason for three or 4 years, was a nice development as well. So I think he's going to take a step forward. I'm pretty confident that Manning is going to be a pretty solid back end starter this year. Obviously, he's got to start getting a lot more whiffs, though. He does a good job, not getting hit hard in the air. And that's about all you could say for him last year is that he didn't walk dudes and he didn't give up too many home runs. It's kind of like what Casey Mize is doing, but Casey Mize has come along much better with the strikeouts and is working on the splitter. Manning's got to find a better out pitch, or 3 average out pitches out of the slider, curveball, and change. I think the changeup is probably actually the pitch to watch this year, because if he can get that going, I think you're going to see his velocity a lot more consistently mid to high 90s this year, and his changeup will be plenty evil if he's able to command it then.
I'm right on Manning. I'll join you on Manning Island. No question.
All right.
I think that the initial reports of the velocity being up are great, but I wasn't that down on him last year. I mean, I think there were reasons why he, as you noted, why he might have been struggling at points, and he competed, and he didn't get run off the mound too often, maybe a couple of starts, and so. I've seen some whispers of people who are having no problem putting him in the trade, if there is one with Oakland, for instance. I would be very leery about that, because the whole idea is to build up the pitching depth Why you'd move him, I don't know, even though he might be limited to 140 innings this year.
Yeah.
I put in my, and when I put that trade piece out for Oakland back in September, that's who I put out there because Oakland's a smart organization. They're going to ask for quality in return. So
one of our commenters said today, like, just talk to Billy Bean a whole lot and find out what he wants for these guys, and then you'll know which of your own guys are good. And I was like, there's some wisdom in that, But
yeah,
Manning didn't get to pitch in 2020. Didn't get to pitch at AAA. Yeah, was kind of dinged up, and held his own last year. Didn't get destroyed, and learned a new pitch. And I'm still plenty confident in the athlete. I also kind of like, because Matt Manning has dominated probably everyone he's ever played in sports with since he was a kid in basketball and baseball. Probably never failed. I actually think it was probably pretty good for him to get his butt kicked. If there was any need for him to double down and work harder and kind of dig a little deeper, I expect that would have probably brought it out of him. So yeah, I'm expecting good things still.
All right. So Stephen Butts on Twitter. Last year, the Tigers compensated for lack of slugging with more aggressive base running and stolen bases. They're still light on slugging. Do you think they're going to run more frequently again to compensate? Is this more efficient and effective way to add, is it more efficient? I said it right the first time. Is it more efficient and effective to add one more power bat? Ashley, I'll start with you on this one.
I like the aggressive base running technique. And I think when you have a guy like Javier Baez in the lineup now, you should take advantage of having that speed and that aggressive behavior that he has. I'm sure he'll get tagged out a fair amount on stolen bases, but I also think he's going to make a fair number of them. I don't think you go out of your way to add a power bat to that lineup at this point. I think you've got a pretty good lineup going as it is. Sure, if we could throw Carlos Correa in the mix at this point, I wouldn't say no, but we don't need that extra bit right now. I think you stay heads up base running, you teach the basics, and you keep that base running technique going. I think it certainly paid off last year. It made for a lot of fun baseball to watch.
Yeah.
And I think that's just good baseball.
You have anything to say before we move on?
Well, first on stealing, I think it's fine to be aggressive base running, and the bigger bases this year should also encourage more running. So we'll see how that works. I'm on the other side of the fence, though. I think there's no excuse not to add some power to this lineup if it's readily available right now. The payroll is still well under league average. So anyone would have a hard time convincing me they can't afford Michael Conforto or a Trevor Story or on the market, and they can get
Chris
those.
Bryant would have been nice, yeah.
I'm not going to say no to Trevor.
No, of course, and I'm not saying you. There's a lot of people out there who think the lineup is set, and I think there's a lot of dead weight, to be honest with you, or at least just a bunch of guys who are average. And I think last year's offense, it was presentable at times, but it wasn't very good. They didn't score a ton of runs. They didn't hit any home runs. I would be very impressed right now with Chris Ilitch if he wanted to get to at least a league average payroll and added Michael Conforto and hope for a comeback season from him from the left side of the plate. That's the move I would make if I was running things, but of course I'm not. But I that doesn't mean they shouldn't keep running. They have some guys who can do that, and it's fun to watch. But I think they definitely need to find that power bat somewhere.
The elephant in the room here is the Miguel Cabrera spot in the lineup. Unfortunately, that's the issue. If people want more power, we did sign Javi Baez, and you're going to get Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green. so there should be plenty more power, if things go well along that regard. I still would not turn away another power bat, though. That would be nice. The other thing about AJ last year that I really liked is that, we saw Gardenhire and Ausmus both come into, every spring it was, we're going to run the bases aggressively. We're going to steal more. We're going to take the extra base. And then as soon as a couple guys blew it, well, all right, tone it back. We can't be getting thrown out in the bases. You can't put a governor on that. Really, you have to turn guys loose, tell them to play to the maximum of their ability, and take what you get. If it's real bad and guys are getting thrown out constantly, yeah, you're gonna have to say something. But you can't tighten up, the first couple times a guy makes an out on the bases. We've got two of the 5 fastest players in Major League Baseball in Derek Hill and Akil Baddoo. Javi Baez can steal bases. Robbie Grossman stole 20 last year. Hopefully this is a very balanced attack. We've got a couple switch hitters. We've got some good OBP guys like Grossman and Candelario in there. There's a lot to work with, and I think we can trust AJ to get the most out of it. But yeah, it would be nice to find another bat with some power. I mean, if you could somehow replace Harold Castro with a similarly versatile left-handed bat that had a little more thump in it, that would be worth looking into. I know some people have mentioned like Brad Miller, possibly. I think he's signed already. I don't really think it's a necessity, but it might be something to keep an eye out for as the year goes along, to find someone who can do that for you a little bit, or maybe Kreidler, if things are going well and he takes over a spot in the utility, bench role category, maybe he can add a little bit of thump off the bench or something. But I think the offense has the potential to be average, but also really versatile, and maybe better if Torque or Green really has a big rookie year, which we should not, expect or demand. So
No, Riley Green, Rookie of the Year.
That'd be huge.
I have the
that would
shirt
be
made.
huge.
I'm waiting. I'm ready.
I might place a small wager on that, actually.
I'm interested to see what Robbie Grossman does. At his age, really coming off a career year, which was wonderful. Is that something that is achievable again for him? Or does he go back to the guy he was? I don't think I don't think you can say for certain either way.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, then if he's a guy who's going to hit 20 to 25 home runs again, okay, that's pretty good. But if he goes back to the guy who is 9, then that's a problem.
By the way, just breaking news, Danny Duffy signed with the Dodgers at a 1-year deal.
Of course.
Of course. Because that's what Dodgers like, we have enough arms. No, we need one more. Okay.
Well, they have one more that they're, probably not going to be using.
Yeah.
So
they do.
Yeah, true.
He who must
so
not
they do
be
have to
named.
make up for that.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. You just know.
They picked up Danny Duffy last year just on the off chance he might come back, and he didn't. They paid $5 million just for fun.
Yeah. God, good to be the Dodgers. Yeah, that's right. They stashed him, and he still had the whatever it was, the elbow problem, I think. Some sort. Yeah.
So one of the
Matt Boyd's going to go to the Giants and have a monster year. I accepted that already.
The Giants. The Giants.
How many Bless You Boys readers out there remember when I begged for Gabe Kapler before we got Ron Gardenhire? It was probably too soon.
It was you and me. We were the Gabe Kapler fan club.
Yeah, but the Tigers weren't ready for that.
And
if Gabe Kapler had gone in there, then it would have blown all their minds. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And they also got Jock Peterson too. So they just do these little things, and they build along, and they rebuilt the rotation on the free agency last year, last year, and it helped them.
I mean, they had a heck of a year last year. Like
everything went right.
Yeah.
It's such a good team that everybody has stopped talking about already because the Dodgers kind of blew past them and went and, did Dodger things, and then the Braves won. So nobody talks about what a crazy season the Giants had last year. Like, I don't know.
And these are all good things to remind people that, whatever it looks like on paper, as good as the Dodgers have looked, they won the 2021, and, no one was thinking about the Braves last year. The Padres look like they might be a team to beat. Everything looks cut and dried right now. And then as soon as the season starts, people get injured, people improve, and everything you thought goes to hell every year.
It is an even year. So I'm sure the Giants would love to believe that that's a possible boon.
No, Buster Posey is gone. So I think their magic is gone forever.
Well, I mean, when I look at a guy like Farhad Zahidi, who built essentially both teams. I mean, didn't he draft a lot of those 2016 Dodger teams? Or 2016 draft. That was him, the Dodgers. So he technically had over 213 wins last year between if you think about it in a weird collective way like that, he was a mastermind for a lot of the core of the Dodgers that were on that team last year.
And
why are you shaking your
head? And I'm just shaking my head out of frustration because, of course, he came from the Rays and Andrew Friedman came from the Rays. It's all the Rays. Like the Rays have just redefined the modern front office and player development and everything else. And the big boys who can afford it are, have poached, their guys, and and made it work with huge payrolls. And somehow the Rays don't stop anyway. So God bless the Rays for that, at least.
So we do have two. Yeah, we have one more. Oh, wait, I forgot this question from Deadly Ninja Bees on Twitter. This is potentially the best Tigers bullpen since. Ashley, I'll start with you.
My brain wants me to say 2012, but like, it feels right. That feels like the right answer here, I think.
That's the last one I can remember that was good.
That was the last time I remember, like,
too.
having.
Now you might go back to 06.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I feel that level of okay about a Tigers bullpen.
You know, one bullpen that wasn't terrible, I don't think, in my mind, was 2009 with Brandon Lyon, where he basically didn't give up a run for 2 months.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was really good, yeah.
And so that wasn't a terrible bullpen. Maybe it wasn't good, but it also wasn't a detriment.
Yeah.
It's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Not since 2009, actually. Now that I think about it.
I know. I want to look that bullpen up right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
sometimes when I feel like hating myself, I remind myself of the Daniel Schlereth season, which I think was 2012 or 2012. He was in the bullpen, and I feel like he got played just to hurt me. I think that was like every time Leland put him out there, I'm just like, are you doing this to make me feel bad personally? Because it's working. I'll never forget.
Or Brian Villarreal, who
Brian Villarreal, right?
Who has a World Series ring, my friends.
Yeah. Bobby Say.
Oh yeah.
Bobby Say.
Nothing like a Clay Rapata reference. That
Brian Villarreal, as far as I know, has a Red Sox World Series ring, if I'm not mistaken.
Was that like 1 out? Team?
Yeah, I'm 99% sure. Man has a
World
Series
out,
ring.
You're right though. There some guys had pretty good years that year. I mean, Futeni was, at least was effective ERA wise. Oh yeah, Freddie Dulce. Holy crap.
Freddie Dulce, that's a name I ever.
He was Brian Perry wasn't terrible that year, actually.
Yeah,
that was his high point, I think.
Yeah.
After that was all downhill from there. I have an
saw
autograph
Ryan
from him
Perry throw a bullpen session in Kansas City once, and I was thinking, man, he was popping the mitt like nobody's business. I thought, man, that guy's gonna be a stud. Shows you what you should never just watch a bullpen.
Yeah.
That's okay. At one point in my life, I thought Quentin Berry was going to be really good. So,
I mean, don't worry. I was a guy who thought Nate Robertson was going to win 20 games someday. So, yeah, I mean,
we're all wrong.
Yeah, we're all wrong. It's okay. And then
I can't think
Quentin
of
Berry. No, I work with his cousin.
You work with Quentin Berry's cousin?
You work with Quentin Berry's cousin?
Oh, yeah, she's a teacher over here in Des Moines.
Amazing.
So the final question was from Mac Attack on Twitter. There's a rumor the Tigers are interested in Michael Pinilla. Is this true? And if so, do you think he'd be a better option than Tyler Alexander?
No shade, but is this true is such a random question to ask us. Yeah. Like, I mean, John Heyman would probably be out here going, oh, well, rumor has it. And we would like choose to believe, but like, we have no idea. So here's the thing about rumors. If you want to be real about rumors, anytime you hear a rumor, it's because at least one side of that trade rumor has let it out. They want people to know and to discuss so that it's out there. So there is an element of truth to every rumor you hear because it's been discussed at some level. Unless
if it's from someone with a blue check or whatever, yeah, right.
If it's from somebody that has a reliable connection in any capacity, it's because somebody's texted that person and been like, hey, this is a thing. It's a thing because it puts pressure on the opposing team of whoever's leaked that information. Because once it's out there, it's like, oh, we have to do something about this one way or the other. We can't just let it go. So that's how baseball rumors work. They're not just out of the ether. If somebody like Jeff Passan or even John Heyman, as much as I am Bob Nightingale, they do have connections, right? So that's the thing, right? Like there's truth.
You're saying Jeff Passan isn't sitting under the lunch table, like in the commissary, like listening to conversations? Yeah. It doesn't work like that. It's all just a game.
To what degree the likelihood of it is.
Well, with Pineda, at least he's got some ability. There's no question. Yeah. He seems like he always has like a 5 to 7 start stretch every season where people think he's going to be he's going to be a star again. And then he gets hurt.
Yeah.
So But if they need 100 innings from somebody, he's probably going to pitch an above average 100 innings.
Yeah. And we want a right-hander at this point. We're fairly well set with lefties. So, yeah, I mean, Pineda makes as much sense to me as pretty much anybody. I kind of like Tyler Anderson. I'm kind of curious about how that would look if he worked with Fetter because he's a little bit younger. But, yeah, I mean, Pineda or Archer, you would just hope, would give you pretty solid work. And Pineda's a much safer bet on that.
Yeah,
score.
I'd hedge my bets very carefully on Chris Archer at this point. Like the Rays took a chance on him last year and it didn't go well. And I think that the risk of health there is the biggest thing. I think he's always, and I use this phrase so carefully, but he's always been a little delicate. And I don't mean that in like a judge, but he has had consistent issues throughout his career. And even when he was at his peak, Chris Archer was like good through 5, and then you were questionable after that. So I don't know.
He's not a big guy. Yeah, I mean, he's never been like a big guy. He's kind of smaller frame, slender.
I think
you never know how that'll work. Giordano Ventura.
If he'd had any glimmer of like a decent season last year with the Rays, I would have been like, oh yeah, okay, like let's play with that. That could be really interesting for a 1-year deal. I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah, the correct answer for who the Tigers should get is whoever Chris Fetter tells them to.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the best way to go about it. And
I was going to lean heavy into Zach Greinke. I really wanted them to take that chance because I love
that. Would have been cool.
Such a psychological pitcher, and those stupid ephyses he was throwing last season, I loved them.
59 miles an hour.
So much. But he got signed today, so that dream of mine died very quickly right before the podcast. But for a 1-year deal,
and he's the type of dude who would always want to go somewhere where he was, personally comfortable. I mean, this is a guy who said before he wasn't real thrilled about pitching in the postseason because of all the attention. It's like,
that was one part of
his own
Vila's press conference. I actually believed him today that maybe they were in the running for Greinke, but yeah, he's the kind of guy who evidently, spring training for the Royals is 30 minutes from his place in Phoenix.
And that's the team where he came up to, right?
So he's comfortable there. I believe it. That was one PM speak I was on board with.
Yeah, Missouri also has like some kind of limit on the amount you're allowed to raise the price on guac at Chipotle. So I'm sure he appreciates that as well. Some of his key needs, as a pitcher.
Yeah, if
real
he
close
needs
to barbecue.
I was gonna say, I love their. Oh man, I haven't had Chipotle in a while. It's due. I'm due to get some nachos from there, or just
you're due to make some of those empanadas. All right.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm not sure if you're coming stateside this year at all, but
I am in September. But that's it. I'm going to Minneapolis for a weekend, for a book convention, and I am going to see baseball because it's my birthday weekend. So nice. I'm just so bummed because the game I'm going to get to go to is Twins Guardians.
Yeah, I had to drop that.
I love Target Field. It's one of the best baseball fields there is. But
it is fun.
I would have loved if that had timed out really nicely and I could have gone to Twins Tigers, Twins Rays, Twins anybody but the Guardians.
Yeah, that sounds like, and I've always wanted to check out Target Field. I heard it's really cool.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's a really nice field.
And it's right downtown too. It's the hotel you stay at, it's easy to walk to it.
Yeah, it is. It's a 15-minute walk because I'm going for a convention. So the convention hotel is like right downtown. Everything is nice and walkable. Great restaurants in Minneapolis. It's a really nice city if you've never been. And it's drivable for me. It's a 7-hour drive. So
nice.
And the Illiches should do something like that downtown, like some kind of district around.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Did you read my historical article about the time the Tigers almost built a dome?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did.
So what's 1972 or
it was the early 70s. I think it was scheduled for 71, 72.
Yeah.
They were going to build like a little kind of area around it in that vicinity, and that's where the old Red Wings arena went. Yeah.
I would have loved to have a stadium on the river, but it would have been so perfect to make it a dome that you couldn't see out of.
Especially what I like about downtown Minnesota is that you can go off the airport and take a shuttle train right into the downtown. And it is so cool because I went to a Michigan Minnesota game out there, and I was just stunned that you could take a train right off the airport and get right there. What a concept! You didn't have to drive or anything. It blew my mind because I was I remember getting off and I'm like, so what? How are you? Were you Ubering? He's like, no, we'll just take the train downtown. What? And I mean, the idea of that seems everywhere in Detroit, you have to drive 15, 20 minutes to get anywhere. But that was so convenient that we were able to walk. And then we walked across the bridge of St. Paul, or where the Minnesota campus was. It was a madhouse to get the hell out of there. I mean, after the game, it was crazy, but it was still cool. And in the University of Minnesota, the football field is a little. I liked it. I like downtown. They have the skew or the Squirrel U, or I kind of forgot what Minnesota's little thing was, their football team. But yeah, Ski-U-Mah. Yeah, thank you, Ski-U-Mah. Big thing, comparatively speaking to what I witnessed in Iowa, which is I don't know. Iowa was a bad experience. Sorry, Uber. The University of Iowa and Michigan losing the University of Iowa is like a tradition, but that place you literally just like crammed. I know I'm a chubby dude, but they're literally everybody's just sandwiched against each other because they have a little bit of the old stadium and the new stadium. But I road trip this year. We were going a lot of minor league ballparks, but I want to go. The PNC Field is going to be one I'm going to go to for sure.
Yeah.
I want to go there so bad because
telling you, Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City is one of the best.
Kansas City is a baseball road trip mecca, man. It's fun.
Kansas City, just for my 2 cents, is my probably my third favorite city in America. It is one of I swear it should be like honorary Canadian. Every person I have ever met in Kansas City is the most polite, friendliest, nicest person I've ever spoken to. Like strangers will just have random conversations with you and like recommend places for you to eat and like
the perfect hybrid of the South.
Are you having fun? And like, hey, this is great. Like I've met friends there at baseball games I've never met in my life before who are like, next time you're here, come stay at my house. And I did. And like, but like the food is incredible. There's so much history there. Like there's a World War I museum that is gorgeous.
Yep, that museum is beautiful, and the Negro Leagues Museum too.
Negro Leagues Museum is a must, and the Jazz Museum is in the same building.
Yep.
And like that whole area is beautiful and walkable, but like go to Kansas City. Not enough people talk about Kansas City. Royal Stadium has its own little museum within it, which is really well done. Like really well done. They have a giant baseball that you can hug. And I've done it multiple times.
All right, now you guys, I might have just changed it from PNC to go to Kansas City because Kansas City's been on my list for a long time.
Go. And it's so nice. The only pain is getting there.
Yeah, I heard it's like right off the highway, right?
Outside, it shares a giant parking lot with the Chiefs. And but tailgating's huge. So if you're into tailgating culture, tailgating's big, and with the Royals, and parking is easy. Like that's the thing. If you're driving or you're renting a car, even if you're taking a cab, it's not that hard. It's just not convenient.
Yeah, that's the big. I live 3 hours from Minneapolis and 3 hours from KC, and there's different. I like KC better as a city, and I like the ballpark. But yeah, the stadium's out in the middle of nowhere in a concrete jungle. Whereas in Minneapolis, you can walk to the stadium and stay downtown, and that has its own positives. But I just love KC. I couldn't recommend that. That's my number one baseball road trip place.
Oh, right on. Well, that's a good recommendation. Raj, when we go to, Erie, we'll go to PNC anyway, because you got to go to Erie. So,
that makes sense.
Too. Do both.
Yeah.
PNC is gorgeous. It's like everything about it is as dreamy as you imagine from seeing it on TV with that backdrop. If anybody from Pittsburgh is listening right now, please stop. Avert your ears and eyes. I hated Pittsburgh. I hated Pittsburgh.
Really?
But I loved that stadium.
Did you? Because I want to go see the Andy Warhol Museum.
I was there, and this is just full bias as to how my trip was like 2 days in Pittsburgh. I was part of a road trip. It was 2 days there. I have no idea how driving works in Pittsburgh because it doesn't.
Yeah, I heard it's really bad.
There was like a dual merge lane on a bridge where you had to cross over and then cross back to get like I swear to God, there was a sign that did this. Like it was looped across. It was a mess. I stayed downtown right by the river, like literally across the river from the park, which you would think would be great, but I've never been so scared in my entire life. Walking from the game to the hotel, it shouldn't have been. I shouldn't, speak ill. They had great food. I got to have one of those sandwiches, the Primanti brothers, I want to say, with the fries on it.
Fantastic food. Yeah.
Incredible. So good. So I mean, it wasn't fully negative. I just wouldn't stay where I stayed. I would probably just Uber from a, more secure area. But the stadium itself made everything worth it. And when I went, it was the season, this is probably 6 years ago. It was the season they did the breakfast burger. And so this was I still remember this burger to this day. It was ground beef and ground bacon with maple bacon, cheese, and then they did, instead of a bun, it was donut. It was a half donut, and that was your bun, and an egg. There's a fried egg on top. I had that and a pineapple beer. I remember everything I ate in Pittsburgh. I'll say that much.
Yeah. Tom on Facebook, Carson Street was phony. Is there? Yeah. And again, I'm probably gonna. If we're going to Erie this year, then definitely. Well, we are going to go to Erie at some point. Just got to figure out where the logistics of everything traveling this year is going to be interesting, because I do want to check out some more major league stadiums. And I talked to we had the guy from the Reds minor league website, and it said Dayton's a pretty cool minor league stadium. So I've heard nothing but good things about Dayton, but it's just I just switched my Subaru car to another car, and I'm just trying to watch the miles on it. So I'm going to actually rent a car this year.
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
Cincinnati is surprisingly nice.
I like Cincinnati too. Yeah.
Cincinnati as a city is really cool. Like, they have the big, Justice League Hall, which is not what it is, but that's what it is. And it's Great American's a pretty cool ballpark. Like, it's not top 5 by any means, but you got the river background, and the river boats are going by. And when I went, it was plus 40 Celsius, so I was miserable just because I was melting. But it's a pretty cool park. It's a cool park, and the city itself is really neat. There's a couple, I went on a big road trip, a Midwest road trip. And so we did KC, St. Louis. I would recommend going to St. Louis in a heartbeat. What a cool city that is. But we stayed right across the river from the Budweiser plant. And so it was this really neat little niche neighborhood. It was very cool. So we did that. We did Louisville just for a stop at the Bat Factory and to get some bourbon. And then Cincinnati, Chicago, and Minneapolis. So. And we stopped at the Mascot Hall of Fame, which is just outside of Chicago. And I highly recommend it. It's absolutely designed for kids. It is not meant for adults. I handily won the t-shirt cannon game 7 times in a row.
Dominated those kids.
It's out in the middle of a factory district. I have no idea why this building is there, who planned it, but we saw a sign for it when we were leaving Cincinnati, and we're like, Mascot Hall of Fame, yes. And I say yes as well. Mascot Hall of Fame, just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Put it on your list. It's weird, but I like it. There's a giant Phillies fanatic outside, and you can play all sorts of weird games. It's an interesting and unique experience.
Well, as far as the mascot, I definitely would probably check that out. I mean, there was talk of the Chicago blogs about going down there. I still haven't been to Wrigley Field, so I got to change that too. Yeah, look. Ashley, as a young father in my early 20s, traveling was very limited. Let me just say that. And so now that my son is legal age of drinking, I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I can actually go and do stuff.
What you guys have convinced me of is that a podcast, a preseason series of podcasts based around baseball travel would probably be pretty cool.
Actually, you know what? That's a really good idea, because I did a piece on Erie and what to look out for, and same thing with West Michigan, and they did really well. And so it was a special shout out to Greg over at Greg Gagne from Erie, who gave me a lot of information. So, but that is it for this week. Chris just texted me just now. He
dropped the ball.
He passed out. And no, and look, what I love about Chris is that he's the same way as me. We both go 100 miles an hour, but if there's a moment where we're on a couch or a bed and it's comfortable, we're gonna sleep. I mean, case in point, I got home. I went to bed last night at 9:30, and I got up at 5 a.m. And then I've been up, and then today I knew, I'm like, well, I'm gonna do the podcast. I have to take a nap, and I took a 20-minute power nap because I knew full well I was gonna start doing, because I noticed on camera lately I've been yawning and I look like an idiot. So I don't want people to think I'm bored with the conversation, but And
I really
actually,
appreciate that because I've been yawning the entire time, so now I know I looked like an idiot.
no. You actually were pretty sly about it, and but I'm the one that has to. You guys are guests. As a host, I should be not yawning. I shouldn't be the one going. That's the difference.
Everything we say is scintillating, Roger. Yes, you should be captivated.
Yeah.
Great.
Only that was true.
Tune
also,
into the
Ashley-
Bless You Boys podcast where we are just edge of your seat riveting on a regular basis.
But Ashley, you also did warn me on Twitter that you were tired. So
Yeah, it's been a bag of negative word. Can we please, considering I have been exhausted all day and warned you guys, I have not sworn once on this podcast.
if you want to say
very-
bag of dicks, go for it.
I was going to say a bag of shit, but
Oh.
My record is toast.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we have to list our podcast as explicit because I just can't.
You know what? We've done. We're fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, please send your letters to.
Yeah, if you want to send anything to the imaginary podcast FTC, let me know, and we'll take care of it for you.
We're not going to read that letter
put that letter in the trash.
But yes, I did not call in nap to this podcast, so you're welcome, and I'm sorry to everybody that listened.
That's Coke Zero. So, but thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. Leave us a review again on iTunes if you have the chance. Check out our Patreon. That goes back into everything we do, which is Tiger Mining Report, as travel costs, gas is going to be expensive, and yada, yada, yada. And so we appreciate everybody. We also shout out to Melissa, who bought a couple shirts, and she bought shirts that were half the proceeds are going to go to adapt to minor league players. So if you're interested in buying a shirt, let us know, and just we'll send out the link more. I should promote it more. My wife mentioned that before. She's like, but I with Twitter, I just don't. I hate badgering people for things, but it's
okay. Roger, I'm going to give you perspective that'll make you feel better. Okay.
Okay.
A tweet has an 18-second lifespan. 18 seconds. That's how long most people see a tweet for. So if people haven't seen it in those 18 seconds, doesn't matter if you share it again. So if somebody who has 12 accounts that they follow sees it every day, so they see it every day. If somebody who has 2,000 accounts that they follow doesn't see it one day, they're never going to see it again if you don't share it again. So promote thyself, sell your shirts, let me retweet that, and go forth. 18 seconds.
And by the way, I do owe you a shirt, though.
Actually,
you did ask for a shirt a couple years ago.
I did.
I did not forget that. We'll have to talk offline about size and everything. Same thing.
I'll pay for shipping.
All right, and same thing with Brandon. Brandon, I have a shirt of yours that's like in my dead serious. That's in there. I was supposed to give you like 2 years ago. So.
Oh yeah, when we got together for the draft. That's right.
Yeah, I did give you. I think I gave you a shirt then, but then I got the minor league one. The same thing with Uper, but
yeah. Yeah, send that up here. I'll wear it down to Comerica all summer long.
If you get it to me before September, I'll wear it to the Twins.
I definitely will. There's the minor league report one is I really like. I don't know. I like that logo a lot.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's just
everyone buy a shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You know what? Look, I'll buy if you work at some business. I'll promote your business. I don't care. That's what I do.
Buy my books.
Yeah, buy your books. Exactly. She does a fantastic job. By the way, are you still doing the last? Forgot the name of the podcast now.
The comic book one?
Yeah.
Yeah, last panel. We're still doing it.
Yeah, I saw that you had an update. I haven't. Truthfully, I've been like a month behind. But
we honestly hadn't recorded in almost a year because of COVID, so we had to really get into the swing of online recording. But now we're recording every 2 weeks. So lots of new stuff. I have to read a metric ton of Sailor Moon this weekend for our next feature episode. But yeah, we're back and better than ever, or back and at least back. Yeah, look, I saw that you guys updated 2 days ago, and yeah, I was like, wow, it's been a while, and it's been at least a year. So I think was that our best of? That was this recent episode, the best and worst 2021 part 2, and then LGBTQ comics. Yeah, is the latest one. So. Yeah, we are catching up. Yeah, so we got that. We've got another one that we just recorded a couple weeks ago. We have 2 actually pending that haven't been released yet from that list. So yeah, every 2 weeks we got something new coming out. So if you like comics and manga and nerdy stuff, the Last Panel podcast is my comic book podcast that I am on. Yeah, I thanks to you, I was getting IDW
comics for a while, the Ghostbusters series and Transformers, and got back in the comics for a little bit. And even the Blade Runner series, which was fascinating. I like the way they approach that. But another topic, another day. And Brandon, what do you have going on for Bless You Boys? Well, both of you, actually, I should say.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, we're just in preseason mode, so we'll be covering whatever goes on at spring training and writing previews. We still got a bunch of prospect reports to write. So, anybody who heard us talking about Manning earlier, I'm probably going to write up a preseason profile on him in the next day or two, and that's about it till we get to the season. We're just trying to keep flexible and cover the news as it comes. I started writing like, oh, we should trade for this guy or we should sign this guy, and they were all getting signed while I was writing it, so I was just like, I forget it. So we're just preparing to ride the wave for another 7 months here.
And what Brandon means
October
by writing something about Matt Manning is that he's probably about 7,000 words into his like magnum opus on Manning, and because he's managing editor now, no one can stop him.
Yeah, no one could stop me before either, but yeah.
It's going to be like a 7-part feature, each part about 2,000 words. Look forward to that.
I look forward to seeing the day Brandon in suspenders, like those railroad suspenders, and he has a hat that's just had the big M on it, and he just comes down and starts going whoop whoop mother, and going from there. And so that's the day where or I'll take a video again doing I want Matt Manning's the next time we do a wind up.
Oh yeah, all right.
Or when we do a roundtable in person, I want a Matt Manning wind up.
I'll try to put together a couple drunken deliveries for us to film. Yeah,
the Kershaw.
Everybody enjoyed the Kershaw so much. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
god! Like 10,000, like almost 100, like 20,000 views.
I was just glad I didn't fall over, so it was fine. You just got to get that part. Once you get this part right and the kick, you're golden.
Well, you had a cigarette in your hand. That was the most impressive part.
Oh, that's right.
The cigarette did not fall. It is.
Oh, like a young Jim Leland out there with the heaters.
All right, folks. On that note, we'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks.